This video will show you how to replace the outside door handle on a Subaru Outback. This will be mounted to your front door. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. We're going to have to remove the door panel. To do this, let's start behind the inside door handle. Looking behind here, you're going to find a small plastic trap door. Just use a small pick to break that free. That exposes a Phillips head screw. Go ahead and remove that. Let's make our way down to the grab handle. Now inside the grab handle, we're continuing with our angled pick. Just go ahead and lift this tab out of here. Okay, that pushes off to one side. Behind that, there's another Phillips head screw. We're going to remove that next. Now continuing on, we're going to be using a plastic trim tool to separate the door panel from the door itself. Before we start doing that, you want to remember that you do have cables leading to the back side of the inside door handle. They're going to have to be dislodged. We also have a wiring harness along the back side here. Once again, has to be removed. So with that said, we're going to start with our trim tool and we're separating down along the bottom of the door panel. As far as up along the top, it actually has a small hooked area that goes over the door itself. So we're not prying away. We're just going to lift it up, start pulling away gently, and then like I said, we're going to start disconnecting some cables and wires. Just got to try to find a place to get in between here. We're being aware of any pinch points as we continue on. There we are. Now up along the top here, we can see our two cables. For each of these cables, we're going to want to dislodge them from the inside door handle. Generally, just go ahead and make your way underneath here and pry it out of place. If you can't do it by hand, you could use a small prying device. As you can see, that slid out fairly easily. Now we're just taking the end of the cable, we can slide that out as well. Repeat the process for the next one here. That slid right out, easy. Now that we have those cables off, we're going to continue on to our wiring. We have this area right along here. We also have it making our way down along the side and all the way down at the bottom. Now let's start down at the bottom. For this, it has a locking tab right up along the top. We're just going to go ahead and squeeze that in and pull that out of place. We'll inspect every electrical connector for corrosion, of course. Now as we make our way to this one, we can see the locking tab. Press that in. That looks good. Now we can pivot this as necessary so we can continue on with the next wiring harnesses. Now we can start dealing with these wiring harnesses. We're going for the larger wiring harness first. This is part of the reason why I had us disconnect the other wires first so we can turn this. Now in this area we can see the locking tab. We'll go ahead and push on that and we can separate this. There we are. Let's move along to the next one here, right in the middle. Has a locking tab. Here's our locking tab over here. Should be able to just press that in and pull it out of place. Perfect. And while we have it in this angle, let's just go ahead and have a peek down along this area. No corrosion there. Now that we have the door panel out of the way, we're going to start removing the vapor barrier. Directly in the center of this area, you're going to find that you have two Phillips head screws holding a bracket in place. Go ahead and remove the pair and the bracket. There we are. Go ahead and set that aside. Now let's make our way to the outer corner. Now we have some wiring harnesses that we're going to have to disconnect and dislodge. In this outer corner, we have one connector here. Has a locking tab. Just go ahead and squeeze it in, pull it out of place. We'll use a trim tool to separate this. There we are. We're continuing downward. Before we start removing the vapor barrier, of course we will have to be dislodging these through the ports in the vapor barrier itself as we make our way this way. But let's continue on with a couple more electrical connectors. Down on the speaker, the electrical connector has a locking tab right in this area. Just go ahead and press that in and we'll pull this up and out of place. We have our next electrical connector up here. This has a locking tab right over on the edge here. And of course, we'll pry this out of place as well. There we are. Now let's start removing that vapor barrier. You can see all of this black adhesive making its way all the way around. This is butyl tape and it's extremely sticky. It will ruin your clothing. Let's try to get this off of here without causing too much damage to that vapor barrier. Just gonna try to pry it away. Once it gets started, typically it's a little easier. Okay, we've got our wiring harness coming out down here. Just keep pulling this away as we continue on. Cables. Now, you don't necessarily have to fully remove this vapor barrier, but I typically do. This one out of here. All right, there's that. We'll set it aside for now. Now, with that vapor barrier out of the way, let's pay attention in this port. We're going to remove the plastic panel, which is held in place with 3 plastic push clips. I'm using a trim tool. I'll just go ahead and dislodge each of these. Can pull that out of place. A quick inspection, of course. We're going to make our way up inside this port next. Now, with that panel out of the way, we can look inside of this port. There's a couple areas that we're going to pay attention to. First of all, we have a locking tab right along this area. We're going to have a mounting bolt here, but we don't need to worry about that. Just go ahead and leave that alone. Continuing on towards the door latch or the outboard side of the door, we can see that we do have a rod that leads to the inside of the handle. Let's start by dislodging the rod. For this, I'm using an angled pick. If you were looking at the top of the rod, you're going to find that it has a plastic hook connector. Let's just make our way underneath that. We're going to carefully separate this. Now, as you can see, that's lifted away from the rod. We can take hold of that rod and slide it out of position. Now, as I mentioned, we are not doing anything with this mounting bolts. Let's continue on to our locking tab. As far as this locking tab is concerned, just go ahead and take hold of it. We're going to pull it downward and start sliding it forward. That's going to unlock the handle. Now let's make our way on the outboard side. Now we'll make our way from in the port. We can see where our door latch is. Continue on along this area of the door. You can see that in there. Now this Torx screw is a captured screw. It's not going anywhere. Just leave it in there and we'll continue on. Now we're along the outside of the door with our plastic trim tool. We're going to start removing the outer bezel with our door lock cylinder. Make your way underneath. You should be able to gently start prying it out. It may seem as though it's stuck in place, and that's just the seal typically. We'll go ahead and remove that. We will have to remove the door lock cylinder from this plastic panel, but for now, let's just go ahead and set that aside. Now we can take hold of the door handle. We're going to hold the door. Carefully start pulling the handle away and sliding it through this port. You're going to find that it pops free and removes from the door. Now, as far as the door lock cylinder and the outer bezel is concerned, we have to separate the two. If you were looking along this flat area, there's a locking tab. You can use a small screwdriver as a prying device and gently pry. And there it is, friend. Now I'm using some glass cleaner directly on a clean rag, and we'll clean down the mounting area. Obviously it's your vehicle, clean it to your liking. We just want to double check to make sure nothing's damaged, and we also need to confirm that we still have our seals. Now, something else that we're going to pay attention to as far as the door is concerned, we're going to look deep inside of this port. As you look inside of here, you're going to find that there's a white adapter and it essentially has a cross. We need to pay attention to that. That's going to be especially important when we go to install our lock cylinder. We'll just have a quick look at that lock cylinder itself. At the very end of it, you can see that it also has that cross area. That will need to be aligned. You can tell that this does move up and down. You don't want to have it off kilter during the installation. And now it's time for installation of our outside door handle. Let's start with the handle itself. When we go to install this door handle, we're going to start by making our way inside of each one of the two ports. Once you have it inside of the ports as far as possible, continue on by pressing it what would be considered forward towards the front of the vehicle. Listen for an audible click, and next thing we need to do is just go ahead and take hold of that handle. We're going to pull it away and then allow it to retract. It should retract fully. Assuming it does, continue on. Now let's pay attention to the door lock trim panel. Looking along the back side here, we also have the door lock cylinder. We'll have it in the proper orientation, swing it into place, and lock it in. Just listen for an audible click and double check to make sure it's secured all the way around. As you can tell, this looks good. A quick wiggle. Let's get this in place. Now, as I bring this in, I had mentioned that this does move up and down, and it also needs to be aligned inside properly. Take your time on this. If it's not aligned, you're going to have a door lock issue. Let's go ahead and open that door, and we're continuing on inside the door jamb. Now that we have that lock cylinder slid in, I'm looking through the port and I want to confirm that I am actually in line with that cross-shaped adapter. Assuming it is, we have our T27, we're going to start in that Torx screw. Start it in, snug it up. You may have to maneuver it around to get things aligned. There we are. Obviously, you don't want to cross-thread it into the wrong positioning. Okay, right there's bottomed out. Just make sure it's tight. We have everything snugged up here. Let's make sure we protect that area, and we'll make our way back inside the port, inside of the door. Now we're back inside the door. Let's start with our rod. That needs to go into the handle here. You could reach inside the door or continue on with your angled pick, whatever's easiest for you. Now that I have that pressed in, I'm going to continue on by locking it down. We have that hooked connector that just slides over the rod itself. Press it on there as far as possible. Once you do have it on there, attempt to remove the rod. It should not slide out of place. Now let's move along to our yellow lock. For this, we're just going to take it and slide it onto the handle itself. Listen for an audible click and give that a tug. One more quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our panel. Now, before we go any further, let's go ahead and test the functionality of the door handle in comparison to our door latch itself. Now, I don't want to shut the door, just in case it doesn't function as it should. To do this, I'm actually going to be using a 1/4-inch extension directly inside the latch. The extension is going to function as the striker, which is attached to the body of the vehicle. When we shut this, the latch is going to go around it, and it's going to hold it. The door thinks it's shut. I'm going to pull on the door handle, and it should want to release. Slide that right in. Now I'm applying pressure, it does not release. And then I pull the handle, it does. Let's go ahead and test it again. I'm holding pressure, pull the handle, it releases. Perfect. Let's continue on. Now just one more inspection in this area. We'll reinstall our plastic panel, just line it up, press it in. Now it's time for the vapor barrier next. As far as the vapor barrier, Let's start putting it in position along the top first. We're only lightly putting it into position. We don't need to fully press it in. Now continuing on, we have several cables and wiring harnesses that we need to deal with. Each of them makes its way through its corresponding port on the vapor barrier. We'll start with our cables. Just flex those as necessary. We should be able to bring them into position. As I mentioned, we left this nice and loose so we can continue on here. Now we have wiring down along this area. That's going to slide through this port. As we make our way towards the center, we have the area for several wiring harnesses, electrical connectors. Next slot, a couple more wiring harnesses here. Those just slide right through. You know what to do. And now at the very end here, this is going to go through this slot right along here. And we'll just get this all up in position. Double check to make sure all of your wiring harnesses are through the vapor barrier as they need to be. Assuming that looks good, we'll continue on with our installation process. Now it's time for our electrical connectors. We're going to start up in the upper corner here. Now this does have a mounting point on the inboard side. We want this to slide onto its point that's attached to the door itself. Line it up, we'll press it on there. This should just slide. Can be a little difficult to get it lined up. Once you have that in place, let's secure the rest of that electrical connector. Line them up, press them together. Audible click there, double check, make sure it's secured in place. Continuing down to the speaker next. Press that in as well. Now we're making our way all the way over towards the far side, close to the door latch. We have our electrical connector here. Line that up, press it in. Audible click there. A light tug. We're going to secure the wiring harness as well. There we are. Now in the center we have the bracket for our door panel. 2 Phillips head screws. Let's go ahead and start one through. We're going to align these with the mounting points on the door itself. Go ahead and start them in. Once they're both started in, go ahead and snug it up. Make sure it's secured in place. Prior to bringing this over towards the door, we just want to pay attention to the door panel mounting points. There's several plastic push tabs making their way all the way around the door panel. If any of them are missing, they're probably stuck in the door. Remove them and install them in the door panel. Now we've made our way over towards the door. Let's start with our electrical connectors in the center. We have the mirror switch and of course our window and door lock switches. Just going to line this up, press it in. After an audible click, just a light tug confirming it's secured in place. Now the middle connector is going to be the smaller of the 3 connectors, so we're going to line that up, start that one in next. It's very difficult to see upside down here. Should be able to feel around. Now that we have that one in, let's continue on to the smaller connector. That's going to go in the center here. The locking tab faces towards where the door would be. Audible click from that. For the larger connector, we have our locking tab. That faces towards the door panel. Make our way up here next. All the way down towards the bottom next. Locking tab faces up for this. Make sure that we have this tucked upward so it's not getting caught. Now that we have all the wires connected, let's continue on with our cables. We'll use the one with the black connector at the top there, or adapter. We're going to take that, slide it into the door handle down along the bottom there. Now I'm going to pivot this in. We can see a groove where it needs to fit. Press it in, listen for a click. After that audible click, you need to give it a tug confirming it's secured. You don't want this falling out. Continue on, same process for the door lock next. This one's the blue connector up along the top. Line it up, press it in. Audible click, double check. Let's get this door panel in place. Now, as far as getting this door panel in place, we're going to start coming in at an angle. We want the top coming in first, and we're coming in nice and high. Along the top of the door panel, there's a hooked ridge. That slides over the door itself. Line it up, slide it down. A couple light taps confirming it's properly down, and now we're focusing along the door panel and the door itself. You remember those plastic push clips I mentioned? They need to align with their corresponding ports, and we'll drive this into position. We're just double checking all the way down the line here. Press it in, tap it to lock it in. We have the door panel pressed into position. Of course, now we're going to continue on with securing it with our 2 Phillips head screws. Now let's close that plastic trap door. Let's move up to our inside door handle. We've got our screw for inside the door handle. Make sure that's tight as well and protected. Now we've got everything back together. Let's go ahead and test the functionality of that door handle one more time. Perfect. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.